Hi Internet, I'm the husband of Alex from Mini Home Jungle, and my wife has told me that today she wants to talk about this plant, which is called Staghorn Fern, she says, and she needs to mount it on something made of cork because apparently it's pot bound and it's not happy. So now she will tell you how she does it.
Hi everyone! So, as my husband said, today we're going to talk about this plant, and I'm going to mount it on a cork board. And the name of this plant is Staghorn Fern, or its scientific name is Platycerium bifurcatum. And it's naturally an epiphyte, which means that it grows on trees, not parasitically, but only as a support. And it feeds itself on from the air, from the rain, and from some debris that falls from the tree, like dead leaves or bugs or other plants' leaves or whatever. And it's a fern, but actually it's the easiest fern you will ever have to deal with if you have this plant, because it's like, in my experience, it doesn't require basically any care. Okay, any is a bit too far-fetched, but it requires some care, but very, very, very lightly. You only need to water it about once every 2 weeks. I mean, in winter you can even go less. In summer you should go a bit more, maybe once a week or twice a week, if you remember, but it's not gonna complain. It grows quite well, which is why I actually need to mount it, not repot it, because it filled up this whole pot. When I got it, all these plants were actually started, but it was smaller, and now it badly needs to be mounted because this pot is super full of roots. You will see when I take it out. Since it's an epiphyte, initially I wanted to mount it on a piece of cork bark, but I don't have it. I tried to look for it in some animal shops, but I couldn't find it, or I did find it sometimes, but it was very expensive, and that's why I decided to use a trick. I found these boards from Ikea. These are pot stands for hot pots, to put it on the table after we've cooked. And it's called Heat, and they sell it for €3. 3 pieces of these for €3, which makes it €1 each. And I think that's very cheap. And I decided to mount one plant on each of these. And I think it's gonna look great because imagine the Staghorn Fern mounted on this and you hang it on a wall, and I think it has a very graphic aspect. I think it looks very good and minimalistic and interesting. So I decided to use it. So apart from the cork pot stands, you will also need some pre-moistened sphagnum moss, but not wet, a piece of cardboard that is bigger than the cork boards, a soda can or more if you're mounting a few plants, fishing wire, a small screwdriver and 1 centimeter screws, a ruler, scissors, pliers, a pen or a pencil, a cutter, and well, 1 pair of scissors is enough, but if you're fancy like me, you can use 2. First, you need to trace the shape of the corkboard onto the cardboard. I had done it before I started shooting, but here you can see me doing this incredibly complicated step just for you. Then you need to mark the circle every 2 centimeters roughly. You don't need to be super precise, they won't be very visible on the final piece. Then a small trick to remove the pop tab off the can. Easy peasy, just be careful not to break it because we will use this to hang the mount on the wall later on. Now I just screwed it in to test it out, and once I was sure it would work, I removed it because it was easier to mount the plant without it. I will screw it back in after I'm done mounting. Then cut the circle out of the cardboard. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect, but make sure to keep the 2 centimeter markings. Match the cardboard circle and the corkboard and retrace the markings. Then using the cutter, cut about half a centimeter into the cord. It's quite soft, so it's easy to do. Do this for all the markings. This is my plant. As you can see, it's pretty heavily root bound. I tried to break it apart with as little root damage as possible, but losing some roots was inevitable. It was weirdly satisfying to hear them crack when they broke. When the plants were ready, I put a bit of the old substrate in the middle of the cork and spread the roots on top of it. Then I layered the sphagnum on top of the roots but underneath the shield front. Before we continue, a little explanation. The brown frond is called the shield frond, which protects the roots and is infertile. Eventually a new green one will grow on top of the brown one. The green ones you see in the video are the antler fronds and they are fertile. That's where you will find the spores through which the ferns reproduce. Once you've put the moss in place, I recommend that you spray a little water on it. It will stay better in place for the time you will be securing it with the fishing wire. It's also good to spray the shield front. It will become softer and harder to break, especially if it's brown like mine. Then you start securing the whole thing to the cork by wrapping the fishing wire around it and holding it in place by sliding it through the cuts that we made earlier in the cork. I tied it on top of the fern, but later I realized it's better if you do it on the underside of the cork. It's less visible. Either way, it's transparent, so it's not going to look bad. If your plant has a green shield frond and not brown like mine, I recommend that you wrap the fishing wire under it, so on top of the moss but under the frond. Like this you will give it room to grow better and the wire will not cut through it as it grows. Then continue threading the wire through the cuts in the cork and make sure to go all around the plant to secure the plant and the moss well. Also, try not to go too close to the antler fronds, because in the future it will continue to grow and you don't want to have fishing wire blocking the newly emerged fronds. This is optional. I took a pair of tweezers and I pushed the moss that wasn't secured well under the fishing wire to ensure that it will stay in place. In the end, I just screwed the can tab back on, and voila! Okay, so here we are some time later. I'm done mounting them all. The other two I mounted them off camera because I thought it wasn't necessary that I mount all three on camera and bore you with all that. I think they actually turned out pretty good. I'm surprised how good they look. They look even better than I imagined. And yeah, this is the final result. You can either water them with a spray bottle, or as I like to do, I like to put them in the shower and just shower them very thoroughly. But my water is not very hard. And another method of watering is that you can dip them in a bucket or whatever you have, like one big bowl or something that will fit them. You can dip them, but just make sure to dip the leaves as well, but don't leave them too long, only like 2 or 3 minutes so that they soak up well, and then leave them drain on the side for a while. The best place to keep them would be on a wall, so you can hang them vertically. That's why we added this thing here in the back. Just make sure when you hang them back on the wall after watering that the back side is dry so you don't stain your wall. I will keep mine in my bathroom on my vertical wall that I will link here. I made a video on it. Or instead of hanging them on the wall, I had another idea which I cannot show you how I would do in my home because I don't have it. But if you have one of those decorative plate holders, you know, plastic or metal plate holders, you can also put it on a shelf and I think it would look very, very well. Very interesting. However you decide to display it, make sure to keep it in a bright spot without direct sun and enjoy your living piece of art. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed watching my video. I hope I gave you some interesting ideas that you could try on your own. Let me know if you want to see some more of my husband in the future videos. I thought it was funny that I included him in the intro. Let me know in the comments below what you think. If you want to connect with me, check out my Instagram page and don't forget to subscribe to have access to my next videos in the future. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time. Bye!
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. welcome to today's edition of the evening news.
No, not today. Whatever it gets a hold of. No. I always say the same thing.